Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to click and view my poster presentation. My name is RMarcotte, and today I will be presenting an analysis entitled Investigating the Contribution of Gyroscope Data to Accelerometer Estimates of Free Living Physical Behavior Intensity. So, to start things out, wearable accelerometers have often been used to estimate aspects of physical behaviors, such as sedentary time, activity intensity, and sleep. Previous research has shown that combining data from other sensors, such as a gyroscope, along with the accelerometer sensor can improve estimates of energy expenditure and activity classification during laboratory-based activities. However, the added benefit of combining gyroscope data with accelerometer data has yet to be investigated under free living conditions. Thus, the purpose of this study was to compare free living activity intensity classifiers that were trained using accelerometer data, gyroscope data, or both, collected from a hip-worn device. Our study sample was comprised of 10 healthy adults, 50% of which were female, with an average age of 31.8 years old. For our protocol, we asked participants to complete one 4-hour session of free living activities of their choosing. The only thing we asked participants to do was to complete at least one occupational, one transportational, one leisurely exercise related, and one household related activity during the 4-hour session. The criterion measure in our study was video-based direct observation. Participants wore a Samsung Gear 360 camera mounted on a wearable chest harness as depicted in the picture on the left. Video data from the wearable camera were imported into Nodus Observer XT and annotated using a focal sampling coding scheme developed from the Movement Observation in Children and Adolescents study, or MOCA for short. Output from the MOCA coding scheme results in measures of posture, or the whole body movement, the activity type, which serves as a contextual descriptor for the activity that's observed, and the compendium-derived MET intensity associated with either the whole body movement or the activity type. Participants also wore an Actigraph GT9X device on the right hip throughout the 4-hour session. The actigraphs were initialized with the primary accelerometer to sample at 80 Hz. In addition, the inertial measurement unit in the Actigraph GT9X was also initialized with the secondary accelerometer, gyroscope, and temperature sensors enabled to sample at 800 Hz. We extracted time and frequency domain features within 15-second non-overlapping epochs from each of the X, Y, and Z axes, as well as the vector magnitude using the raw data from the primary accelerometer and the IMU gyroscope sensors. The time domain features included the signal mean, the standard deviation, the mean device angle, and the standard deviation of the device angle. Note that the device angle features were only computed using the accelerometer data. The frequency domain features included the dominant frequency, the ratio of the dominant frequency to the power spectrum, and the proportion of power that was within the 0.6 to 2.5 Hz frequency band. Separate random forest models were then trained on the extracted signal features that were developed using either accelerometer, gyroscope, or both data streams to estimate activity intensity, which was sedentary, light, or MVPA. We evaluated the models using leave one subject out cross-validation. Each of the random forests were trained using 200 trees, and the trees were limited to a random selection of 5 features for decision tree splitting. Keeping the number of variables that could be selected for tree splitting fixed was included to minimize the potential influence of having a larger feature pool, as observed with the accelerometer plus gyroscope model. As for the results, this table shows the classification performance of the various models that we trained, as well as the model performance for time spent in different intensity categories. Overall, intensity classification was best using both accelerometer and gyroscope data compared to using either sensor alone. You can see in the confusion matrix that within a given criterion class, agreement with the criterion measure was always highest using both accelerometer and gyroscope data. This was also observed in the overall balanced accuracy, where using both accelerometer and gyroscope data resulted in about a 2 to 4% increase in overall balanced accuracy compared to using either sensor alone. A similar trend was also observed for model estimated time spent in the different intensity categories for the session. You can see that for the mean absolute percent error for time spent in different intensity categories, that for a given intensity, it was always lowest when using both accelerometer and gyroscope data. The modified Bland-Altman plots in the figure show the difference in the estimated time spent in a given intensity category on the y-axis and the criterion time on the x-axis. Each of the figure columns represent the model. The rows of the figures show the different intensities. This figure shows that the limits of agreement were typically narrower for sedentary behavior and light physical activity when using both accelerometer and gyroscope data streams. However, for MVPA, there wasn't a noticeable change in the estimated time spent in MVPA. So, in conclusion, the estimates of physical behavior intensity were improved overall when using data from both accelerometer and gyroscope sensors compared to using either sensor independently. These findings seem to be driven primarily through improvements in time spent in sedentary and light intensity activity, with less noticeable improvements in MVPA. Some limitations of the current analysis are the relatively small sample, where we only had 10 participants, and we only observed 4 hours for each participant. Thus, future work should investigate the utility of these multi-sensor devices, such as the ActGraph GT9X, for estimating aspects of physical behavior in a larger sample over extended periods of free living behaviors. Thank you.